here on Twitch. And hi, Twitch. Hello, Facebook. We are live. I'm just doing a couple of little housekeeping things and then we will get into it. We didn't do a podcast yesterday because I have the flu. Also, we had a crazy game to watch. And yeah, so that game we ended up winning. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. And so now that is public on Facebook as well. And wow, a lot of people stumbling in on here. Thank you everyone for tuning in on a non-podcast day. So welcome in Andy, welcome in Adrian, Ace Caltor, welcome in Tina French, who we were chatting with during the game, low bass guy. Welcome in as well. And yeah, I was not expecting to do a show tonight. I was also not expecting the Capitals to win 3 games in a row and to make the playoffs. So lots of unexpected
Sure
things.
attack.
I will say that I've been very sick the last couple of days. I've had the flu, and I haven't even left my room in many, many days. But I watched it from bed and I was just praying that we would find a way. And all day long, I thought, you know what? This game's going to come down to the wire. It's going to be a close game. And, Philly's got to win this in regulation. So they're going to pull their goalie. And it's all going to come down on how we defend 6-on-5 hockey and whether or not we're going to get that empty netter or they're going to score and we're going to lose the whole season on it. I really felt that all day. And then as
Yeah.
time drifted along, I kept on being like, "Oh shit, I'm right. Oh shit, I'm right. Oh shit, I'm right." And the panic that was in setting, I felt like I was watching a playoff game 7 all over again. And yeah, whew, so I've been to a do or die game 6 in this building against Philadelphia in 2008. It's one of the only 2 road games I've ever been to in my life, and so I'm wearing the shirt from that game. And
Nice.
uh, woof, Ovechkin scored in that game. We were able to come away with a big victory in that game to force a game 7. Unfortunately, we lost game 7 at home in 2008. But I'm happy that we won today's game. And so let's just go back. We're not going to go through it. It's not a full podcast today. We're not going to have our basketball people on. We're not going to have football talk, although I have to give a quick shout out to the DC Defenders. They were down 10 points with like 2.5 minutes left in that game, and they won their game. They
Wow.
scored 11 unanswered points. And that's, I
Nice.
think the UFL is a very exciting football franchise. So we'll talk more about that next week, but mad props to them, especially they were on the road. It was a rematch of last year's XFL championship in Arlington. Big win for them. But I do want to go back because without this crazy week for the Capitals, tonight never happens. They never have a chance, especially because Detroit won tonight. And so if we lost any of these games, we don't get in. So I know that there's a backdoor way if all the other teams lost that we could make it. But yeah, so we beat Detroit on Tuesday, April 9th. A 2-1 victory. That was sort of the deciding game in my mind on whether or not we can make a run for this playoffs. And then all we had to do was beat Buffalo, and it would make it a lot easier for us. And for the second time in the month of April, we lose in Buffalo. We
Badly.
won 4-2. It's so frustrating, and that sets up these final 3 games. There's a Tampa Bay game which we win 4-2, which was a very close game. It was 2-2 after one. The way that scoring went, Milano scored first. And he scored second for us. It's funny because Gil on the last podcast made a joke about an eclipse, with Sonny, and I thought it was so funny. I thought about that in that first period. I was like, wow, Gil was right. He did call it a game before this one. He thought that it might happen, but I still think it was hilarious that Sonny had a big game this week. Won that one. Or so anyway, we scored first. They tied it. We scored again. That one was unassisted by Milano. The first one was assisted by Pacioretty and Hendrix Lapierre. Then they tied it again. No goals scored in the second. Nerve-wracking time. John Carlson, who's been, in my mind, the star of this last month, and gets a power play goal, assist by Dylan Strome, his 39th assist of the season, and Tom Wilson's 16th. It makes it 3-2, and Nick Dowd puts it away with a great steal. Oh no, sorry, that was that the one where he stole it and they scored? No,
No, that was Boston.
Oh, that was in the Boston.
Yeah.
That's right. Nick Dowd scores 11th season. Beck Malmstein, who's also been playing phenomenal, 15th assist. Trevor Van Riemsdyk 14th, and the Caps win 4-2. I'm gonna go grab my water because I forgot to grab it, and a power cable to make sure that nothing dies here. But Gil and C4, talk about this Tampa Bay game real quick, and then we'll come back and talk about the Boston game and then tonight's game.
Sounds good. Gil, I'll let you start.
Well, yeah, so we were all at the, C4 and I were, among others, at the get-together out at the Irish Channel on 5th and H. Is that where it is, 5th and H?
6th.
6th and H.
It's
in
connected
downtown.
to the Fairfield. It's connected to the Fairfield.
Yeah, just a short walk from Cap 1. And I for one was very nervous about this game, but it was a nice back and forth game in the first period, and then everything kind of went dead silent, screeched to a halt when Jensen was hurt by that hit.
Yeah, that was scary.
That was very scary. God. That was probably one of the most unpleasant things I've ever seen in my life.
Almost as bad as when Carlson got
hit in the head with that shot. Yeah.
Almost as bad.
Pretty close, but yeah. But they managed to, I think they managed to use that as a rallying point to come together even more and take the win. And I think at that point they knew from there on, they knew what they had to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to describe it.
They started playing their game again. They said, we got to do this. We've got to win this game. And they started playing their game again, and then Dowder took down, what was his name? I don't even remember the guy's name. Took him down later took him down in the, I want to say Isomalt, and I know that's not right.
Yeah, as much as well, speaking of the vets, as much as the narrative has been about getting younger and faster, and that's it has been needed. It was also about, the vets that still wanted to do something stepping up. And Dowd has been one of those guys. And like you said, and Robbie said, Carlson has been one of those guys.
Yeah, and stepping up, getting tougher.
This game, who got the game-breaking goal, the opening goal? Ovi. Who got the winning goal? Winner? Who got the winner? Yeah, exactly. Both are number 6, Oshie. So, the vets have their place, and they're leading the way. And, I've said mission accomplished regardless of whatever resulted this year. But I think the younger guys are a lot better for, being along with the ride and learning what it takes to not only get through a regular season, now they're going to learn what it takes to hang in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, some of them have had that experience with Hershey last year in the Calder Cup.
Yeah.
Several of them were in that Calder Cup last year. So it's not the same level. The NHL is not the same level as AHL. But given the team they were playing last year.
Yeah, they know they have
an
idea
what to expect.
But this is next level stuff.
Oh yeah, this is next level. But I think our guy, I think they have the mental toughness to do it. I'm a little concerned about Lindgren. I hope he takes these days off just to rest, relax, do some total, what do I call it? Total sensory deprivation for, for a time, and
Well,
just decompress
it
so he can come back.
I've noticed a pattern with this team. And it fortunately they've kind of figured it out so that it doesn't happen as often, but it seems like once every I want to say lately 5 to 7 games, maybe more, maybe 8 or 9 games every so often, they have a really off game where they fall behind really badly.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that happens in the playoffs, maybe, you don't leave Lindgren in, you put Kemper in to mop up.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
give them
that.
that little bit extra rest if they run into that situation.
Yeah, and
So,
maybe it stirs the pot enough that they get their groove back and finish
yeah.
strong. Maybe not, finish strong. Don't
Yeah, but
maybe not necessarily.
if you're not going to win the game anyway, don't leave him in there.
Yeah,
Give him that little bit of
yeah. Let
extra
him have that
rest.
little bit of yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
but
but
I'm trying
wow.
to get some more friends into this live thing. Some surprise guests that will surprise you guys. So if I'm sounding quiet, I
Okay.
just want to explain why
Okay.
I am.
that's okay.
Surprise is fine. I don't think I'm going to go to sleep tonight, even though I just chugged my last
No.
beer.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah, they're both having trouble getting in, which is weird because
Trouble getting in. That once upon a time that sounded like a hockey team we know very well.
So, all right, let's go and talk about the Boston game while I try to get these people entered. So one person's booting up their laptop, the other person's got some error messages. I'll try to walk through that in a second. But let's go through this Boston game. That was very exciting, very nerve-wracking. John Carlson did score 12 minutes in his 10th of the season.
Robbie G.
There he is. He's
Robbie G.
The man,
What's
CP3,
the
going, what's
the
going
return,
man,
on?
the
Are
prodigal
you?
return.
the
Yes.
Host of Sports
founder.
on the Hill podcast, Carol Porter the third. Welcome
Hey.
back.
Welcome. So
Oh
good to
man,
see
it's good to
you.
be back. Hey, appreciate all the love, guys. Appreciate y'all taking over and running the show and doing such an amazing job through it all. Appreciate it as always. I had to come on. I've been watching the Caps. I haven't been able to come on to talk about them, but I've been enjoying what I've seen this season. Carberry, I take my hat off to him at the beginning of the season. Things was a little rough, but he's never lost his cool. He's always had the right answer, and he's honestly these last 2 games with all the young guys in the lineup, with Jensen being out and some of the key players, and the way they stepped up and played. I mean that just goes to the character of this team. I've been watching the NHL Network post game with them breaking it down, and that's all they've pretty much been saying. They can't explain with the analytics, the goal differential, all of the categories that we were negative and deficient in, but to find a way to get into the playoffs in this manner, giving up 1 goal in 2 games, lingering, come out of nowhere, take over the goalie duties with Kemper, not rounding into the form that they thought that he would, coming from Colorado after winning the Cup, losing your 2 top centers, one to injury and one to personal reasons, and still developing the talent and getting them to play effectively as a unit and the buy-in. And then I think the most impressive thing was the fact that they're playing man-on-man defense. We've never seen the Capitals do that when Ovi was young. And the fact that you have these older veterans and these young guys working together, playing defense in a way that we've never seen them play and do it effectively and shutting teams down. It's I'm in awe of it. And I'm just I'm happy to see it. I'm loving every minute of it, and I can't wait for this playoff run to start because I know how much I don't like the Rangers anyway, so I can't wait for this. And then you got the lingering versus lingering battle. So it's a lot of good storylines in this season, a lot of good storylines for this playoff run. And all I'm gonna say is, I got a little, little feeling from 2018, man. You never know what might happen. You got a hot goalie, a team that's faced adversity through injuries and still found a way to win. They trust in each other. They love each other. And if you saw right before the game, I posted a video of Nick Dowd taking out the guy that took out Jensen since the last couple of games. The referees, the last couple of games, the refs have been missing a lot of blatant hits on our guys, that's put our guys out, and they haven't been giving us due justice. So, like I put in my my post, that's why I love hockey, because the referees miss it. Somebody on the other team gonna make sure that they didn't miss it. So, I think that's really fueled the catalyst for this team. Just the way they love each other, they play for each other, and they go out there and do whatever to win at the end of the day. And when you see Ovi out there blocking shots, you know they all buying in. So it's a beautiful thing. I'm loving life, and all I can say is let's go Caps.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
So we were just talking about the Boston game, and then that Nick Dowd, not only to do the fight, but just to get the empty net.
That was amazing. That was so fun.
I love that he picked the pocket, and got that goal.
And especially because it was Marchand's pocket.
Yeah.
that was the best part of it. I was like, yes. And you didn't really hear Marchand's name in that game. That just tells you how effective they were.
Not at all.
I think they were super effective against all their top players. I mean, the fact is that they just played such great shutdown defense in that game and tonight. I mean, I was telling Gil and C4 earlier, Carol, that all day long I thought that tonight was going to be a close game, right? That both teams would play a tough defensive battle. None of them would be, trying to push too much and leave themselves open on the back end. They would try to take whatever is given to them. And that would leave a very close game, which would mean that, unfortunately, or fortunately for us, Philly was going to have to pull a goalie in a tie game situation, which is a very rare thing in the NHL, because they couldn't allow for it to go to overtime, because if it went to overtime, they were knocked out. And so they were counting down to the moments, and the Caps knew that was gonna be a potential possibility, so they played a close game to try to keep it close. That's what I was hoping would keep it close, so that way this situation would happen. But I also knew that it would make my nerves shot, which it did. I was very nervous this entire game, and thank God for TJ Oshie. What a great play up the boards, along the line, and to score. Obviously the goal of the season.
Hey, if I turn my camera around, you'll see 3 empty cans and a shot glass in front of me. So we were all on the edge of our seats.
That was me Saturday night. 3 empty Guinness things.
I have to say, one of the benefits of having the flu is I don't need any extra drinks or any extra smoke to feel inebriated. I feel very, very dizzy all the time right now. So the fact that I'm even doing this right now is slightly amazing. But I feel you. I wish I could drink. Unfortunately, on antibiotics, you can't. So
also just to give a quick sports OTHP break. I'm actually watching the Dodgers versus the Nationals right now. The Dodgers just went up 1-0 after the first. The Nationals got off to a good start. CJ Abrams got a double. It should have been a double, but the cutoff man got to it nicely. Winkler came up and hit a double that almost scored CJ. He stumbled coming around third. It was a play at the plate, so they didn't end up getting any runs. Got 3 hits to start the game out, and then the Dodgers, being the Dodgers, got 1 run in the bottom of the first off of 2 hits, and now we're in the top of the second.
Carol's so fast. He beat the score bot. The score bot just told me that. And
wow.
The score bot's usually faster than anything. So that shows how on top of it Carol is and how much we miss Carol.
I got all 3 TVs going, man. I got all 3 TVs going.
Real quickly, just want to go through the scoring of this game. There's not a lot, so it's pretty quick for me to go through. In this game, obviously, Alex Ovechkin scores that first goal, 18:08 in the game, his 31st of the season. I was a little bit worried because I thought it went off his hand at first, and I thought, oh, God.
That's what they thought, yeah.
They're going to call it back, but it didn't. Dylan McIlrath gets his first career NHL assists, and he's played phenomenal. Talk about a young guy coming
he's
in a
been
big spot.
He was laying the wood out there. He was knocking folks into the boards all like the last 2 games.
I saw him play in the Calder Cup finals last year. I love him.
He's
I
amazing.
love Dylan McElrath.
Yeah, he's definitely good.
Had his 13th assist on that one. We were up 1-0. Unfortunately, in the second period, they scored to make it 1-1. And then, as we talked about before, TJ Oshie, empty net, 12th goal of the season. Assist Nick Dowd, great play to get it, up and out of there to TJ, who sort of passed it to himself along the boards and made a great play. I have to give a little bit of a shout out to the refs though, because we should have been down 1-0 in this game at the very beginning. It looked like Lindgren had saved it because he basically pretended to have saved it. But the reality is it deflected up and no one saw where it went. And then it bounced off of somebody. I'm not even sure who and in, but it was after the whistle blew. And the rules have changed, Carol. So once upon a time, the second the whistle blows, the play is dead. Now there is what's called continuation. It's like basketball. So if it's one continuous motion and it still trickles in, it's a goal. But because it touched somebody else that's not the goalie, then it doesn't count.
So what they actually ruled was that it touched a flyer.
Right.
And I heard. So that's what broke the continuation.
Right.
The shot attempt ended right there.
Right.
That's why they ruled it was no goal.
Yeah, I actually missed the play, but I heard him breaking it down. So good explanation, Robbie. I definitely missed that.
Yeah, so I'm happy, but a lot of Flyers fans were obviously very pissed off about
they
it.
owed us for the last 3 games of us getting, Jensen getting blindsided into the boards for no reason, Malenstein getting hit. There should have been clearly an interference call. They owed us one, so the hockey gods find a way to balance things out. So, but you got to give Philly some credit because they weren't expected to be in this position either, just like the Capitals weren't. They had a hell of a season, and I hate to say it, I'm not a Tortorella fan, but he worked his magic with Philly this year, so that's the team we definitely gonna have to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because so many teams that people didn't really expect to be in it at the end were. It started, it was a battle between Detroit, Philly, Washington, even in Pittsburgh, to the very last game of the season for all of them. And there was a chance for all 4 teams to make it, which is wild. I'm sure the NHL is super happy about that. But we made it very tough on ourselves going on a big losing streak earlier this month. Philly made it tough on themselves.
You got to put an asterisk by that Tom Wilson suspension. That felt personal. I never watched the hit. Once I heard 6 games, I knew it was ridiculous just off of reputation. And if you recall, in the 2018 run, he got suspended on some fluke stuff in the playoffs that helped fuel the team. So, like I say, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm noticing a couple of trends that are similar that are lining up. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm kind of happy because talking about 2018, we were a really good road team, that year. And I feel like we're a pretty good road team this year. And I kind of like in some ways that, New York's the President's Trophy winner. We all know that the last President's Trophy winner to win it all was Chicago in 13, right? So it's been a while and it's definitely no guarantee.
Think about Wilson in Madison Square Garden for playoffs.
Yes, and
you know what's going to happen though is they're going to start. Remember they're going to start doing Wilson Rempe. They're gonna play that up.
Well, what's wild to me is, it's so rare for a brand new coach for a team to actually win a President's Trophy. And
wasn't he also the youngest coach in the? Oh no, the new coach. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no, he's talking about Laviolette.
Yeah, Laviolette. Sorry, never mind.
That's another storyline.
Yes, I know. But that team's the right team for him. It's a team of veterans versus a team of young players that they're trying to develop.
And remember, Robbie, I said I didn't think he was a good player developmental coach. He was a good coach if he had a team already set to take him to the next level. He wasn't necessarily there that had the capability to build a team, but he can take a team to the next level. And I think we're seeing that with New York, and we saw what happened with us. So, Not trying to say I'm right, but he your boy. But I told you I really didn't have that much confidence in him, but I gave him a shot.
Once it all sort of shifted that we were going to have to bring in young talent, and then that I thought when we originally brought him in, if I remember correctly, we had more of that older flow.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, over the years we've had to kind of go younger, and so
Yeah.
I kind of agree. You know, I thought that he could kind of continue what Trotz had done for us. You know, unfortunately, I wish we had gotten him maybe a year earlier.
Why you got to bring up Trask, man? I'm still hurting. I still feel like if they would have re-signed him, the Cavs could have went back to back. I think that's the only bad decision the general manager made since he's been there is not sucking it up and re-signing Trotz. I think that's the only problem, the only mistake that he's made since he's been there.
All right, my second special guest and surprise. We got Janaea from Janaea Talks Caps podcast joining us as well now, and we're going to get her thoughts on this huge win for us. I thought we would do a really fun roundtable. Janaea, this is Carol's first time back on the show in months, I want to say.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
And so we're happy to have him. I'm happy to have you back. It's a little bit earlier for you over there on the West Coast. I know that she was watching it on DVR delay, so I'm happy that she is done with that. So I'll ask you real quickly, Janaea, what were some of your thoughts on this nerve-shattering game?
My thoughts, woo! No, my heart is still pounding. It's crazy. I kind of had a feeling that we were going to see that exact situation play out, like where we were in a tie game late and Philly was going to pull the goalie.
All day I felt this.
I just I woke up this morning and that's what my gut felt was going to happen.
So much the same.
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because I don't know, you guys probably had the Washington feed, but the NHL Center Ice gave me the Philadelphia Flyers feed, and they, like, their broadcasters had already realized, because what had happened was in the Detroit-Montreal game, there was an icing call. Like, Montreal was leading 4-3. There was an icing call with like 7 seconds left, which shouldn't have been an icing, by the way, upon replay. They called the icing. And so I think what happened was Tortorella and the Flyers, like, they must have looked up at the Jumbotron, seen that there was 7 seconds left in that game, and that Montreal was up 4-3, and like they probably figured Detroit was not going to get a point and that they were going to lose, and so they pulled the goalie. And the Flyers broadcasters had already realized, like, oh shoot, you know, like Detroit just tied it with 3 seconds left, Philly's out. So the broadcasters had realized that, but the Flyers bench had not realized it. They pull the goalie and give us the empty net, and I haven't screamed that loud all year up. Oh, put it in the net. Thank goodness he didn't miss this one, because there was the one in the he missed one in the game against the Bruins last night, right? He missed the empty net.
Yeah.
Didn't come back to bite us, thank goodness. But yeah, man, what nerves. Crazy tight game, and just so happy that they made it. Like, my feeling was that they really deserved to make it. I really wanted them to get in. It's not necessarily that, like, I think that they're going to go on to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, anything can happen. You never know. We've seen that a million times before. And certainly they play really well in these low scoring tight games that I think that they can beat just about anybody. But yeah, I mean, I really just wanted them to make it because I felt that they deserved to get there, given everything that they've gone through this season, all of the adversity that they've been through, and just so happy for them and so proud of them.
Yeah, just that playoff experience for the young guys, regardless of what happens, I think will be so key towards their future development. But I kind of think back to Montreal against us, when we win the President's Trophy and we got halaked, and it was Lindgren could do that, right? Like and in the playoffs, it's a weird sport. Like if the goalie catches fire, and he's kind of had to play like he's in the playoffs the last month and a half. That's what you need. If you got that guy that you can ride, like I almost feel worse for a Boston team that's gone back and forth with their goalies all season long, because they've got to have so many question marks. Like, who did they, like, I know from my understanding, people have told me this. No one's ever won the Stanley Cup going back and forth every game with goalies. Like there's always been somebody that eventually comes to the front for every Stanley Cup champion. And like that just doesn't, it works in the regular season. It does not work in the playoffs.
And that's what the Bruins have done all season, is they've literally just alternated every game, which is kind of crazy.
Right.
Well,
So I don't
they
know how
definitely. I think they're going to try to see. They was going to try to ride the hot goalie and see who would step up. And it's just, you know, some different scenarios working with them. They have such a offensive firepower of a team. Goaltending is always is key, but to them, they're like, okay, as long as we do what we do on offense, as long as he doesn't give up 3 goals a game, we're going to win a majority of the game. So when you have different flux, like with us, we need a goalie that's going to be able to play these close games, that's not going to, you know, be out there sleeping and letting goals get by them that shouldn't get by. So I feel like it's more of the buildup and the makeup of the team, how they look at the goalie situation. So it is a rarity to have that happen, go into the playoffs and do that. But you never know. You know, these playoffs are crazy. You know how close in talent and close in strategy and schemes these teams are. They played each other throughout the seasons. They know each other in and out. So it's all going to come down to the hustle, the pounce, the bounce of the puck, and you know, the hockey gods. We all know how it works. And before I get out of here, because I got an early meeting at 8 o'clock, a meeting in the morning. The stat that I feel is going to be telltale for them going forward is they say that during the game, the Capitals are 8-0 on the road in back-to-back games.
Yeah.
That's
the stat in itself.
That's insane.
Yeah, so the playoffs, they've been playing playoff hockey for the last month or so. They know they're good at low scoring games. Their record is amazing. They know when they lose big, when they give up goals, they lose big. So they're not going to do that. They're playing man-to-man defense. They got a hot goalie. Like I say, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I would love to be the one at the end of it all to say
the Rangers have got to be nervous. They can't going into this thinking, oh, we've got this, in the bank, because the games were pretty close between the Rangers and the Capitals in the regular season. The time where they played back-to-back games, which is kind of a stat that I like to look at because they did play them in a home and home, which is very similar to what you have to do in the playoffs. They split that, right? So I think that's a telling that we can at least hold with them. And it'll be interesting to see going forward. We just got to steal one of these first 2 in New York and put that pressure right on them, And so
they're the President's Trophy winners, so they're going to be feeling it right away.
Right.
I never want to have that President's Trophy going into the playoffs. It just seems like
never ever again.
Such a thing hanging over your head. Like it just always seems to not work out well. So no, thank you. But Robbie, I said this, my uncle and I, my uncle Brad, you've seen him on Facebook, the big Boston Bruins fan. We were talking about this the other day, just yesterday or the day before, I believe it was. And he said, he's like, if you guys get in, you can beat the Rangers, because what a nightmare matchup for the Rangers, honestly. Like, do you think that the New York Rangers want to see 3 of the guys who have just two of the guys who have tortured them the most, like of all time ever, Alex Ovechkin and Tom Wilson? Plus, now you add in Charlie Lindgren, who, Lindgren has given up 3 goals against total in 3 games against the Rangers this season. They did not want to see him in the first round. I guarantee you that.
And he's going to be playing against his brother.
Yeah.
So he's going to be super motivated.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. Well, I'll let Carol go, but Carol, it's so nice to see you back on the podcast. I think that I am going to make the official podcast number. We're not going to talk about we've talked a little about the other sports, but it will just be a Capitals special because I didn't do one yesterday, and this is looking like it's going to be longer than 30 minutes.
I'll go ahead and give the last Nationals update before I get out of here.
For sure.
Patrick Corbin's sinker is no longer sinking or sliding, and he's giving up extra base hits that the Dodgers are just teeing off. It's 3-0. He's finally got out the inning. And I don't know, Corbin, he's the weak link of the pitching staff so far, and we got rookies out there. So on that note, I'm going to watch this for a little while longer before I hit the bed.
Carol, before I let you go, I just want to ask you, did you watch any of that Defenders game this week?
Unfortunately, I was doing the couples thing, and I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I got the chance to see the highlights of them scoring, 11 points in 54 seconds, and I'm probably going to have I'm 80% sure I'm gonna have tickets to the next home game, so I'll be there in person. But I'm a little upset that I didn't get a chance to, because I watched the week before when they lost, and I didn't get a chance to watch the week when they came back and won. So I'm gonna definitely be tuned in this week.
They lost 2 weeks ago. I think they've won 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Everything is a blur right now, man. With
No,
business going away.
I just want to make sure you saw that crazy 11-point comeback. That was wild.
That was sick. I watched it replay, and I was happy to see it. And I will be at the draft night at Commanders Field now on Thursday night. I'm still waiting on confirmation. I might be at Maryland Live also for draft night. I'm waiting on confirmation. We're expecting a special guest. I'm gonna go ahead and name drop. Might have Ray Lewis in the building. So I'm waiting to get word from one of my associates if that deal got closed today. So I might be at 2 events next Thursday for the Commanders and for the draft party. So you might get some behind the scenes footage of the second pick for the Commanders at the stadium. And like I said, if things go good with the event up at Maryland Live with Ray Lewis, I definitely have some footage from up there because there should be some Hall of Famers, current and ex-players there also. So I've been doing some, cultivating some things. I haven't been on the air, but I've been communicating with some of the local Commanders, players and ex-players. So yeah, I'll be on the lookout. I might have some surprise guests for y'all. So stay tuned.
So
very cool.
Just to make sure that I understand, the draft is not this Thursday; it's the following Thursday, right?
It's the Thursday that's coming up. Yeah, next Thursday.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
So you can RSVP to get tickets. Go onto the Commanders website or the app. Put in, say you're interested in going. Someone to give you a call. They want to have the, selling tickets. They have food there. It's supposed to be a nice event. They're doing all the renovations to the stadium, and I'll definitely be in the building. I got my confirmation today, so I'll be down there for the draft night. First round, we have the second pick, and I guess I'll go ahead and drop what I heard from my insiders before I get out of here. From what I heard, as of right now, the Commanders will be drafting Daniels number 2.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, we'll definitely have some football experts on either next week to preview the draft or the following week to recap it. And we'll definitely talk about the Commanders and the Defenders more and the Nationals. And unfortunately, the DC United did lose. They got a goal scored on them in the 90th minute in the last game, so they lost that one. But yeah, it was. It's been a fun and interesting week for Washington sports, and I appreciate you, Carol, for joining us. And we'll talk to you soon.
No problem. Appreciate it. And yes, somebody kept on saying if the Capitals didn't make the playoffs, it'd be 2 straight years that no Washington franchise made the playoffs. And I told them that was not going to happen. And I'm glad to say it didn't happen. At the end of the day, let's go Caps. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good rest of the show. And I'll catch y'all next time.
Sounds good.
Good to see you again, my friend.
Right.
Take care.
All right. Catch y'all later.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
So yeah, it's been wild. We've been pretty lucky, on this podcast that we have had a playoffs almost every season to talk about. I'm happy that the Capitals will allow for us to talk about hockey playoffs. And so I was hoping for that. Janae, I do want to, before CP3 came on, we were talking about the week that was for the Caps that led us to even have this ability to win tonight, to do that. I just thought it was an incredible, gutsy performance to beat, a Tampa Bay and a Boston, especially with the odds makers seemingly counting us completely out in both of those games. And then our odds shot up today, but still even weren't 50%. And what are your thoughts on, losing, so many games earlier in the month to put us in such a tough position, but the resiliency to come through and win 3 games in a row to make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it was, I think when I had checked before they had played the game against Tampa, so they had those 3 games still left, and I think their playoff odds were at like 16% at that point. And then they were obviously not favored to beat Tampa. Like Tampa was heavily favored. Boston was heavily favored to beat us as well. And then today, Philly was favored to beat us as well. Obviously, probably because we were on the second half of a back-to-back, and Philly still did have a chance to make it into the playoffs. But yeah, I just think it perfectly, the way that this last month or so, or at least these last few weeks have gone, it kind of perfectly sums up the whole season for the Caps, if you ask me. Like, it's just like, they're dead, they're back in, they're dead, they're back in. Like they never ever say die, and they just keep finding a way over and over again to get it done. And I think the games this week, like the game against Tampa, what a game. They played incredible. Like just I mean, I was begging for them after they had lost that game in Buffalo, and even the one that they won in Detroit, although they played really well, obviously defensively, like 2-1 win, but it was just they didn't have hardly any shots on net, and like they weren't taking control of the game. I felt like they were sitting back too much. And then they went into Buffalo and kind of the same thing, like they barely had any shots on net again. And so before the game against Tampa, I was just kind of begging them basically to just like go out there and take it. Like, don't sit back. Like, don't play to not lose. Go out and play to win. And I thought they really did that against Tampa Bay, and it showed on the scoreboard. Obviously, they got the win and got the 2 points. The game against Boston, incredible. I saw a stat today, like the Bruins were only held to less than 20 shots on net 2 times this season, and they were only shut out 2 times this season, and both of those were against the Caps. We beat them 3-0 in Boston, and then we beat them 2-0 yesterday. And it was, I think they said it was an 18 save shutout for Lindgren the first time, 16 save shutout for him this time. So it's incredible that they were able to do that to the Bruins even once, let alone twice. And if we look back, like all the way back to that 3-0 win in Boston, that's kind of what turned the season around as well, was that victory. That's kind of when they started playing a lot differently and playing a lot better. So big victory against Boston, obviously, to set this up today. And then I saw a lot of fans saying kind of just like, wouldn't it be the most Capitals thing ever if they got it I think you and I even said it, like just to get it all the way to this point, and then to like maybe even get it to overtime and then lose in overtime, and then like Pittsburgh would win tomorrow or something and they would get in. So I think a lot
I'm
of
the
fans
most
were
happy that we eliminated Pittsburgh. I think that might be
Oh,
the favorite part of the
Yes.
entire thing. Is that they don't make the
Absolutely.
playoffs because of us. So
it's the first thing that my girlfriend said to me. She's like, so we're in and Pittsburgh's out. Fuck them. Like,
you trained her well. I've been very impressed.
double whammy.
Yeah, it's was she a diehard hockey fan before you met her, or is this all because of your fandom?
I mean, I don't want to take credit for it, but yeah, it's pretty much all me. Like she she was a Bruins fan a little bit before, but she didn't really she didn't like watch all of their games or anything like that. She was just kind of like
a Bruins fan from Canada. That's an interesting.
Yeah, she was just more of like a casual kind of fan and a casual Bruins fan.
There are seemingly a lot of Bruins fans in Canada. I know of like 3 or 4 other ones, which I think is interesting.
I think it's just like it's a hockey country and it's an original 6 franchise, and so you always see like lots of Bruins fans, lots of Montreal fans for sure, lots of Rangers fans, like even lots of Detroit fans. So but yeah, she was kind of a casual situation with the Bruins, I think. I think it was more so of just like because I loved hockey so much, and I'm like, so what's your favorite team? And she's like, oh, the Bruins. Like she just kind of panicked and picked one maybe, but yeah, no, she got really into it back in probably like around 2016, after we had been together for about a year. Kind of like during we were facing the Penguins in back-to-back playoffs, right? 2016, 2017. And so she watched the 2016 playoffs, and then like by the time that we got to the 2017 playoffs, she was like really invested, and she just kind of
forged in fire if she's gone through those Pittsburgh losses.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people kept on mentioning tonight's like a game 7. I'm like, can we please not say that? We don't have the best history in game 7.
Right?
That's bringing back
no
a lot
kidding.
of heartache for me. Like, I don't know, like if that's a good thing. Like, yeah, I guess
game 7 is usually like game 7 for the Capitals is usually like they outshoot the team like 45-17 and they lose 5-0. So
yes, I was gonna say 4-1, but yes, 5-0 would also work. So it's like
I think we're talking about history, and there's no bigger history guy than me. But I think this team has beaten down a lot of doors to history, gone against the grain. A hell of a lot has been made about, well, this team doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs. Look at their horrible goal differential. Let me tell you something. Goal differential doesn't mean Jack Daniels in the playoffs.
Right.
Nope.
A loss is a loss.
It doesn't mean anything anytime.
It doesn't mean anything. It means
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. What I look at for the playoffs, and to Gil's point, what I look at for the playoffs is you can look at that both ways. The Capitals have a horrible goal differential because when they lose, they get blown out. But it's also because when they win, they're winning these tight games that are exactly the type of games that you see in the playoffs. And they are exactly prepared for this exact moment and playing playoff hockey. That's the style of games that they're great in. They have an unbelievable record this season in 1-goal games. They win almost every single 1-goal game that they play.
Yeah, they have actually one of the best records in one-goal games in the league, which I think that people should be looking at that more. And their road record in close games is also phenomenal. And so I always think that it's funny that people put so much effort in it. But my theory is, like, if you're going to lose by 20, who cares? I mean, it's not like it matters. It's why it's the 6th tiebreaker. And it's why Philadelphia, if they had won in regulation, all the other teams had lost in regulation, how they would have gotten in was that 6th tiebreaker, which is wild to me that Philly and the Caps would have been tied in 5 tiebreakers before that. But but if it was more valuable, it'd be higher than the 6th most important tiebreaker. I put it that way.
Exactly.
So Cheryl Ann, I want to get some of your thoughts as well, because I know that we've been gabbing, but this has been a crazy last week. I know you haven't been on the show in a couple of weeks, but what are your thoughts going into these playoffs here?
Well, let's just say the first words out of my mouth when the game was over tonight were holy fucking shit. And I screamed them enough that I woke up my son because he was in bed because he has to get up early to go to work tomorrow.
Oh no.
But yeah, those are the first words out of my mouth. And Marcus was also, we would have been screaming up and down, jumping up and down. But oh my God, this whole season has been a roller coaster. Gil, you know this, Robbie, you've heard me say this, and Janaea, it's nice to meet you.
Yes, you as well.
put a face to the name. But I said at the beginning of the season, strap in, folks. This is going to be a long, bumpy ride, and enjoy it. And I'm like, thank God it hasn't ended yet. I want to see how far we can go. And I'm of the mind, wouldn't it be? And Robbie's brought this up before. Wouldn't it be funny if, And I've said it before. This team in games like this, they play like, wouldn't it be funny if? They have that capability, and yeah, I'm just so all over the place right now. I don't think I can spit a coherent thought out right yet. But I'm just, bottom line is these guys have played hard, they earned it. I'm very proud of them, and I look forward to the next several weeks. So
I mean, I'm excited. At a minimum we get 4 more Caps games,
yes.
Hopefully, at least 5, because getting swept is my least favorite thing in sports.
Let's not get swept.
So
I don't think it would be as long, again, we're right back to where we were at the beginning of the season. As long as this team plays competitively, makes things interesting. If they lose 4 games each by 1 goal or 1 or 2 goals to the President's Trophy team, is that really so bad?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't necessarily be upset, but I just don't like getting swept. I just think that I understand what you're saying, but for me, it's like, if you make it to the playoffs, I want you to win 1 game. I don't know. That's just my own internal feeling. But I agree with you. I think it's important how we play the games. But I think, especially with how we played against Boston this year, it tells me if we can shut out Boston twice, and if I remember correctly, no one else has shut out Boston this year.
Yeah.
And
correct.
No.
Yeah, and Boston to me is a similar team to New York. They're not the same team, obviously, but if you can shut out Boston twice, you can win a game against New York.
No, that's an accurate assessment. They're top heavy forwards, got lots of defensemen that can move the puck. Yes, they do seem a lot similar.
So I think if you can do that, you should be able to win 1 game. I don't know.
The biggest difference is New York has Igor, and Boston, like you guys said earlier, has been flip-flopping goalies.
They've been flip-flopping goalies because they have 2 number 1s. That's my opinion. Ullmark led the league in save percentage last year and won the Vezina. So if I remember right.
Yeah. Swayman, I mean, not to take anything away from either of Boston's goalies. They're both phenomenal goalies. But but then again, if you're playing Igor in all your games, Igor's going to get tired. Boston sort of in that way has almost a little of advantage in the goalie situation because if one's tired, So, I mean, Boston is kind of fortunate in that they have two goalies that play extremely well to get,
And
So,
honest though, if we were to
but
lose,
I'd still rather play the Rangers than Boston in the playoffs.
So here's a question: if we were
Because
to
I want to shove it to Laviolette.
If we lose the first two
Wouldn't
games,
that be something, hey?
yes, that would be the greatest thing ever.
Wow, wouldn't it be funny?
I just want to shove it to Laviolette.
If it's just like Alex Ovechkin and a bunch of kids, a bunch of kindergartners out there knocking Peter Laviolette out of the playoffs, all of these kids that he wouldn't let on the ice last season, right?
Exactly.
Yes, that would be great. So my question to you guys is, let's say we lose the first two in New York. Hopefully this doesn't happen. Do you give Darcy Kemper a shot at it? Or
No.
You play Lindgren all
No. And I've been a Darcy fan since the beginning, but no.
So Darcy gets all four, and is there any situation? It doesn't matter how badly gets blown out, he gets all four no matter what.
Well, like C4 and I were saying, if you get into a blowout game, and Charlie's the starter, then pull him, rest him, let Darcy mop up.
Yeah, but there's no, and then let's say you pull him, Darcy then stymies it, looks good. You still don't play him in the next game.
Well,
I don't trust him, Robbie. I do not trust him. I've seen too much of him this season where it's just like you put him in there and it's like a shot for like a floating wrist shot from the blue line with no screen and it's in the back of your net. You can't trust the guy, how he's played this season. I hope he's going to figure it out and turn it around for next season. But as of right now, I don't have faith in him.
Interesting. Because you don't see a scenario, because I just think it's interesting. Back in 2018, we had a backup goalie in Grubauer who, he had the hot hand. He's the guy who got us into the playoffs. He didn't play particularly well. They did a goalie switch in game 2. The game I actually went to, we lost that game, but they put, they switched goalies, and ultimately they rode Holtby the rest of the way. You don't see a situation where you have a Stanley Cup champion goalie somehow find himself in the playoffs. No, we are so that it's just interesting, that we just don't believe in him that much. That we
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but it's just, to me, it's like I still had faith in Holtby even when he was struggling. I had seen enough of Braden Holtby that I still had faith that in the playoffs, if he was going to get put into the net, he was going to come up large. I don't have that faith in Darcy. I know he's won a Stanley Cup, but I watch a lot of Avalanche games and I have a lot of friends who are Avalanche fans as well. And from what all of them have said, and from what I saw myself as well during their Stanley Cup run, he kind of just had to be good enough because the Avalanche are such a great team. Like, they score so many goals. He just kind of had to keep it at 3 goals against or somewhere around there, and they were going to win, right? So
yeah, they had a great shooting off forwards, and their defense was also a lot better than ours was at the time. So yeah,
I do think our defense has improved over these last 3 games, though. And I am hoping to continue
tremendously. Yes.
I'll ask Gil, why do you think our defenses look so much better over these last 3 games? Is there anything systematically that you saw that changed, or play in? They just played into the system better, or what was it? Because there seems to be a huge uptick in their defense.
2 things I noticed. 2 things. One that's not as obvious, one that is obvious to me. But what was obvious to me was any shot that forced a bad rebound, a high danger rebound, and there were lots of them. I don't think Charlie meant to do this, but there were a lot of them where he kicked them out and they were straight out to the middle. I don't think he was meaning to do that, but there were a lot of them. And more often than not, there was a Caps D or sometimes a forward went back, scooped it up, and either sent it to the boards or cleared it. So I don't know if that's a systematic thing or they just are better able to read the play But that was the big thing. The other thing is over the course of the year, and nobody said it, I'm going to say it. Over the course of the year, they have learned from one of the most underrated coaches in the league. This is why they hired him, Mitch Love. He's been in charge of the D all year long. They hired him from one of the best teams in the AHL as an assistant. He was their head coach, the Calgary Wranglers, but he was renowned for his work with young defensemen. And that was a gem of a hire. And I think they've learned a lot from him over the course of this season.
The perfect coach for, I mean, look at today, like we have Rasmus Sandin's out, Nick Jensen's out, we have Alexeyev is in the lineup playing huge minutes, Vincent Iorio is in the lineup playing huge minutes. Like these kids, they don't look out of place, because to Gil's point, I think that was such a big hire for he probably should have been the head coach hired for the Calgary Flames, honestly, looking back. But glad that they didn't decide to go that way, because we can certainly use them.
We would have lost out. Well,
yeah.
And also, to your point, Alexeyev, I mean, can you imagine, speaking of him, we were talking about this the other night, can you imagine how good he would be right now if Edmundson had not been there? He spent more time on the bench because of Edmundson, and it drove me batty.
And look at how quickly he's just becoming an absolute beast out there. Like he has improved so much over these last 10, 15 games or so. Like I trust him out there now. We're in a 1-goal game, the last minute of a 1-goal game. Alexeyev can be out there. I trust him. Like he's not gonna make a mistake, but he's just playing a lot more aggressive. Like he's closing on guys a lot quicker. He's using his big body finally. Like that's kind of what I was hoping to see out of him. And he's doing so well with it. And to your point, I wish they would never have went out and got Joel Edmundson, because it didn't make sense to me at the time, really, why they did that, because I thought Alexeyev looked like he was at least ready to compete for a spot at the end of last season. But yeah, I mean, what's done is done. Edmundson's gone, and we're happy to have Alexeyev in there now. So
right.
For me, it was, what has changed is our ability to block shots. Now, we've been one of the best teams all season in that, but I just think, our commitment to that and how much, I mean, we had like 19 or 20 block shots by the end of the second period in this game. Imagine if even half of those get through, right? Like it's a world of difference, because those are 10 less shots that, Lindgren has to see, fight off, rebound, second chance shots. And, that and the hitting has increased. I've seen, especially with some of these guys that they brought up from the AHL. And I thought that I was just so impressed at how these, Oreo, and what's his name? The other guy.
McElrath.
Yeah. Holy moly. Their ability in these such clutch games to come in and look like they've been pros. I mean, yes, he's been a pro and he's played in, I think, like in a ton of games, right? 600 games or something, right?
McElrath,
Yeah, but like still to come up to this level in a do or die games and to lay the wood and to look, to put 9 or 10 minutes of ice and John Carlson for playing him almost 30 minutes of ice time. I mean,
he's whew.
John Carlson, man.
I tell you, Iron Man.
So many Cowboys halfway through the season wanted to get rid of him. I can't tell you how many arguments I had in forums.
Same here, buddy.
I just like
you and I are always in the Facebook groups defending him, and it's crazy to me that we have to do that. It's crazy to me. He's the best defenseman.
One of the best defensemen in our history.
To play devil's advocates, at the time they were sellers, and I think the mentality of the people that were saying that were, okay, let's get all we can. Let's get all what's out there, and he's still killing it. He's still worth something. Let's get rid of that contract and get what we can and just tank for the rest of the year. I think that was the mentality. Not that it turned out to be a good idea. Thank God.
But at least I can see that. At least I can see that side of it. Like that at least somewhat makes sense to me. I'm more so talking about the people who are just like, John Carlson sucks. He
Yeah.
sucks. Get him out of
Oh,
here. He's the
no.
worst player on
no,
the
no,
team.
no,
That's
no,
what
No,
I'm
if
no.
we
talking
learned
about.
something last year, his
Yeah.
value is that he drives the offense.
Yeah.
He's not there. There's no offense. There's no puck movement. There's no zone exits. There's no nothing coming out of their own zone. We learned that real fast last year.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
have
when
to
he was
Him
have-
being
out.
injured last season sunk them. That's what sunk them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a difference of 11 standings points, which is literally the difference of making the playoffs or not. In in looking at last year versus this year's standings. In my opinion, you have to have Ovechkin in the lineup. You have to have TJ Oshie. You have to have John Carlson, and you have to have Tom Wilson. If you don't have all four of them in your lineup, it's very hard to win if you're the Capitals, because they are the guys that are leading these young guys. And you hear these young defensemen, and they're saying they're learning so much from John Carlson. So in my mind, I mean, there were some fans were saying trade him for a bag of pucks, just get him out of here. And I'm just like, he's
my God.
basically an on ice coach, showing these guys where to be. You can see the development under him. Gil was talking about our coach on the D, but you need both a on ice coach and an off ice coach to try to mentor these young defensive players. And
I think he just has such a like calming presence out there too for all these young kids. And he's just like, I loved what he said. I believe I posted that in the Facebook group. Like, I loved what he said before the game against the Bruins yesterday in the morning, like at the morning skate. And they were asking him about like, this Capitals blue line. It's going to be a very young blue line for the game against the Bruins because Sandin's out, Jensen's out. They've got all these kids called up. And they asked John Carlson about it. And he was just like very matter of factly. He said, every guy that's here right now is here because he's good enough to be here and deserves to be in the lineup, and they can do it. These guys can do it. And he just told them, like, just go out and enjoy it, but make the most of it. Like, this is your chance. You want to make the most of it, and you deserve to be here. And I thought that was just such a, like, he wears the A for a reason, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
he has an A on his jersey for a reason.
I'm so happy that the team doesn't listen to certain fan groups.
Really? No
He
kidding.
never would have made the playoffs this year. They would have just given up at the trade deadline. And I thought they did a great job of trading away certain players to get some value, but leaving enough to still make a run at it. And look at what happened because of that. I think they played their cards right. So, shout out to our GM, which also some fans sometimes, like to write off. But he's got to push the right buttons and make the right moves.
He's an awesome GM. Awesome.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember George McPhee and how we didn't have a defense for 10 years? Like, holy cow.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
And look at how
people have short memories. Like, Brian McClellan's done a really good job.
Right.
All in all, he has done a good job.
Yeah, he's the one who made the final adjustments that were needed to be a team that makes the playoffs and gets to the second round and wins the Stanley Cup, right? I mean, people are like, well, GM was the guy who's the architect of the original players that were there. That's fine, but his team's never made it out of the second round. So, we needed that final push for sure. So I think we're going to start to wrap it up soon because I still do have the flu. I should still get some rest.
Robbie, I hate to interrupt you, and I know this was like 2-3 points ago, but I really want to say something here. You mentioned something about the block shots.
Mm-hmm.
That is a hallmark of a John Tortorella coach team. They love to block your shots. So guess what the Caps did tonight? They out Tortorella.
Yes, they did.
I was literally going to say that as he was saying that. It was the Caps took John Tortorella's game and they shoved it back in his face.
Yeah.
For a victory.
Even he was so frustrated because he knew that we played their game and he knew that they needed to play. The Flyers are trying to actually make it a more run and gun, which is not their type of game, but they needed to try to generate some offense. And I like that we stayed within ourselves and that we didn't try to, jump into that we stayed calm, we stayed back, and we didn't take too many.
We played our game.
Yeah.
We played the game that we set out to play, and we stuck to the game plan. And if we continue to stick to the game plan, I think we can get at least maybe, knock on wood, to the second round. If we stick to the game plan.
Who knows? At least
I
make
would
it
love
tough.
to
At
know.
least get it to game 6 or 7 and make New York
Yeah.
think about it, you know?
Make them work for it. Yeah.
Oh, regardless, they're playing with house money right now. They're
Oh,
not
yeah.
supposed to be here.
Right. For sure.
Exactly.
With that being said, I think next week, I know I've always done our podcast on a Monday, but this seems fun to do on a Tuesday. So I'm going to go on a limb and say if there's a game next Monday, we will not be doing a podcast during it because it's just way too stressful to watch a live. We've done in the 2018 run, we did pregame shows, but back then I didn't have 2 children and I could do a 7 o'clock show. And we could do an hour-long show before it. So I can no longer do that. I do 9 o'clock shows for that very reason. So next week's podcast the time is gonna be to be determined on whether we'll do it a Monday or a Tuesday show, and we'll announce on the podcast page, and I'll do a little video and put it on my Instagram on whether or not I will do a Monday or Tuesday show. And all of you guys are welcome to join me, for us to recap whatever the first couple of games are. The schedule is not out yet. It won't be out until after the games are through tomorrow. But we will obviously post the full schedule.
I will be going to one playoff game.
Nice. Do you know if it's game 3 or 4? Do you not know?
I don't know yet. We're going to wait and see when the schedule comes out, and Mark is going to figure out when he works. But we're going to one.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yes. Well, I hope that you continue to be our good luck charm. And you went to a lot of games this year, C4. How many games did you get to?
What did Marcus say? I think we got to like 13 or 14.
13 or 14, I think was
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was a lot.
Do you have
it wasn't as many as when I had season tickets a couple of years ago. That was 30 plus.
Yes. Do you have any idea?
Did you awesome.
I think you won more than you lost, right, this year? I feel like you did.
Yeah, we did. We won more than we lost.
That's good. All right. So yeah, with that, I want to thank Janaea. If you check out Janaea Talks Caps, she did do a preview before these last 2 games in her last podcast. Gil also did a great Power Play Point podcast. I'll do his command in chat as well, and I'll do Janaea's command. So you can go follow all of them on X or Instagram or on her website, Janaea Talks Caps. You can also go on our website, SportsOTHP.com, click the podcast partners button, get the Power Play Point podcast there. So I'm sure that they will have new episodes coming out about the playoffs. I'm very excited to see that.
And Marcus and I are doing a Capitals Off Their Chain podcast tomorrow night.
Nice.
So to discuss the last couple of games and preview.
I have been shanghaied to be on that very episode. So
yes, Gil will be joining us on that episode. And if you listen, you'll understand why it's called Off Their Chain, because you just never quite know where it's going to go.
Right. It's a little bit like it is here. A little bit. But we try to keep it slightly more structured, but that is a fun show. So definitely check out that podcast as well. I am going to release this as an official episode. I actually haven't even uploaded last week's episode because, again, I got the flu. But I figured people could either watch it on YouTube or on Facebook or on here. So people had opportunities if they really needed to see last week. But I will upload last week's episode. I will also upload this one, and I'll put it up on YouTube as well. I can't believe we went over an hour, although I can believe it. Knowing all of us, and I thank you guys for joining in very last minute. I asked behind the scenes baseball for everyone who's watching or listening. I asked all of them to do it about 5 minutes before I clicked go. So I'm impressed that I was able to get all of you guys, and shout out to CP3 for showing up. Yes. I haven't seen CP3 live on our. It's funny, it's his podcast too, but he hasn't been on in a while. He's been doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but he'll be doing some stuff with the draft coming up, and he keeps on doing videos and other things on the show page over on Facebook. And I appreciate him for giving his insight as well. Janaea, any final thoughts before we let you go?
I think we've pretty much said everything. Just that I'm really excited. I'm really happy they made it. I'm happy they're playing the Rangers. I think they match up really well against them. Anything can happen. I know they're the President's Trophy winners. We're not supposed to win, but we've seen many, many times before that doesn't matter once the playoffs start. So, yeah, I just think they have a good chance as long as they play the way that we've seen over these last 3 games, that they can play defensively and Lindgren in net, and let's go, baby.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us all the way from Vancouver and making this once again an international podcast. And I appreciate your insight as always. And we'll definitely hope to get you on maybe in the playoff episode next week.
Yes, sounds good.
All right.
Nice to meet you, Cheryl, as well. Finally.
Nice to meet you too. Finally, yes.
C4, final thoughts before I let you go.
I'm just excited. I kind of look at the playoffs as like a separate season from the regular season because the gameplay is so different. So again, strap in, folks. It's going to be a fun one. Enjoy it.
Sounds good.
As long as it lasts.
Yes, I'm excited that we get even 4 more games, but hopefully we can win at least one to make it at least to make them think about it.
House money.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like Gil
money,
said,
absolutely.
House money.
Yep.
All right, Gil, I'll let you
and you know what they say about the house always wins, right?
Exactly. Gil, final thoughts before I let you go.
Start spreading the news. The Caps are on their way. They're gonna be a part of it. You know the rest.
Yep.
Well played.
I don't think I need to say any more.
No.
All right. Well, sounds good. Well, I'm going to end our Facebook Live stream there. And I appreciate everyone for tuning in over on Facebook and this audio podcast. And it's been a fun Capitals thing. I'm super happy that they made the playoffs. We'll definitely be back next week, either on Monday or Tuesday, with another episode of Sports on the Hill podcast. With that, I will say, let's go, Caps.
Let's go, Caps. Good night.
Let's go.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Night, Janaea.
Good night, Janaea.
And we're live still on Twitch, but I will start to do a close up of that. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in on Twitch and being a part of this conversation. Yeah, so we'll definitely let people know on Instagram. And thank you, Tina. Let's go, Caps. I do. Hopefully, there's some small chance that I still make it to that meetup, Tina. But I'll tell you, I've been pretty dizzy and sweating during this entire podcast, but I made it through. I appreciate everyone for sticking with it. It's amazing what adrenaline will do, right, Gil?
Oh yeah.
Yes, no kidding.
I figured I wasn't going to sleep for at least another hour anyway, so you may as well get it out of our system and talk about an immediate reaction, right? There's no better way to do it than right now. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Let me see if there's anyone I'm going to raid tonight. I think I'm just going to end the stream because otherwise, if I raid somebody, you know what? Davey has been such a big fan of ours for such a long time. Let's surprise him with a raid. We can send over whoever is here and do that. He's such a good friend of ours. So we're going to raid Davey's eating a sandwich. If anyone's still in chat, they can grab a raid call or a sub raid. We will go over there. I think that's everything I wanted to say. Wizards obviously didn't make the playoffs. They were the second worst team in the East this year, so they are out. Again, I mentioned earlier, the Defenders had a great comeback victory. Unfortunately, DC United lost in the last minute. So we had both ends of the spectrum on Saturday there. And the Nationals are up and down, but we can talk more about the Nats and the Orioles next week. We're going to head over to Davey right now. Thank you again, C4, Gil, Janaea, and Carol. It was a full show, even on a Tuesday. I appreciate everyone. The Dodgers just scored another run. They lead the Nationals 4-2 now in the bottom of the 5th. in that one. So with that, we will leave and say, let's go Caps one more time, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Okay.
All right. Night, guys.
Good night, all.